What's up, y'all? It's your boy Atma, you already know. And today's topic, this video, as you can probably guess by the title, will be a video response to one of Water Exodus's videos. If you follow my channel, you most likely know about Water Exodus. I mean, let's be real here. And if you don't, then you should. Anyway, all jokes aside, it's your boy Atma, you already know. And this will be a more or less, actually, no, it will be a rather serious video. Uh, well, disregard the end, I guess, of it and some parts of the beginning. But so the topic of discussion today is fear. It's one of my favorite topics. Not really, but it's it really kind of is in a way. It's a bit of an oxymoronic kind of state of mind, but it's a topic in which I have some experience in, and I've done a lot of research into this over the past few years. And the particular topic of today's discussion would be like the more pinpoint topic or the case right now is that there's an individual that has approached Water Exodus seeking help, seeking some kind of solace or some answer to an anxietal problem. Anxietal is the word I like to use, but an anxiety, anxious problem that the individual he or she may have towards fear and how to respond to fear and how to, how to cope with it. And the certain fear that we're talking about today is a fear. Um, well, long story short, I'll give you the TLDR version of it. The person, the individual whose name will not be mentioned, they're getting an operation on their eyes and wants to know. It's a very big deal for this person because they're quite afraid of any kind of, I guess, injury or damage. The specifics aren't really known. I'm assuming that it is a fear of injury to the eye, which is something that I very much share because I have omnetophobia as well. And omnetophobia is one of my many lists of phobias that I have, including venophobia and hemophobia. But that is by far the worst one, and it controls your life. I mean, someone with omnetophobia will probably tell you the same thing. And I mean, I have a very bad case of it. And as a person that has experience with this, and a person that is also going to at some point go through the same procedure as this individual, I'm also going to get an eye surgery at one point. Um, I also struggle with it at certain times. So I think that I have a very valid voice in this topic or in this particular discussion. I will give you my 2 cents. I'll give you my professional opinion. Um, I'll give you my suggestions. That's the best that I can do for you. So first, let's talk a little bit about this whole fear. Where does it come from? What is fear exactly? Well, the DSM-5, as you would have it, which is what I like to call the holy Bible of psychologists. It's not really a holy Bible, but it's just basically a book of mental disorders. So you can find the disorders in people and pathology. So it has a lot of information about stuff like that. And fear is one of the most discussed topics on that list. Well, actually, no, anxiety, which is also paired with fear, and fear is very usually it has high comorbidity with other mental disorders and stuff like that. So I mean, it makes sense why they would list it a lot of the times. But they describe it. I will read to you in a second here. They describe it as the autonomic response to real or perceived threat. So that is what the DSM-5 says about fear. It says it has, I think, about 7 entries for fear, but that is the one time that they actually do try to define it, at least in terms of the anxiety disorder. So there you have it. But I would like to add a little bit more onto that. And what we need to understand about fear is just like any other emotion, it is just that, an emotion. And if it is an emotion, that means that it has some place in the autonomic nervous system and the central nervous system. So we have a way to control it, even though it also controls us. I mean, again, scale there, but there's a method of controlling your fears and your emotions in general. And this one is just a bit tougher than the other ones because there's not only do we not know all that much about fear, we also are very inexperienced in that area. However, inexperience is not something that would excuse why we couldn't solve this issue. But first, let me give you my professional opinion about this. The first thing I will say before going on any further is if there is a legitimate, very serious concern about this, and if this is really controlling your life, and you seek to gain control of your life once more, if you don't want this fear to control you, I would say go talk to someone whose profession it is to actually deal with these matters, such as a psychiatrist, therapist, something of the sort. And that being said, I mean, I don't know what advice they might give you. I mean, I could think of a few things that might, put you on some prescription of, benzodiazepines or something. But other than that, I would say that it would be the best idea, at least starting. But that's my professional opinion. That's the number one thing that I must say. If it is a very serious issue, seek some help from a professional. That should always be the number one. I mean, they can help you much better than I or anyone else can. Now, next, I want to address that fear. We have just defined it. And I've added a few addendums to it. But the thing is that with fear, it's just that yes, I mean, there's a terror, there's a fright that comes from it. But we also must remember that there's also some level of reverence as well that comes with fear, and that goes without saying. But we tend to sort of respect things that we're afraid of, but it's not your usual respect. It's respect because of the fear and the stimuli. But the thing about that is that phobias in general are quite irrational if you think about it. And my phobias in general are very rational, and it controls your life. And I've spent many years suffering with this, some my whole entire life. So some people don't have it as bad. But recognize this. Whatever you're afraid of with this eye surgery, whether it's pain, which is subjective, by the way, just to go on a little tangent here. So, pain, more or less, we don't know the full spectrum of it, but pain would be a subjective kind of feeling, I guess you could say. But the reason I say this is because not everything is uniform. There is no universal acceptance for what pain is or how much something would hurt. Like, we cannot define it on a scale. We can't measure it. And so we don't really consider everyone's, there's generally like an accepted populace for what something could like how much something could hurt. Like, for example, pregnancy. Some women say that it hurts quite a lot. But then there's also a nice group that say that it doesn't really hurt that much, or doesn't hurt compared to some other stuff like, kidney stones, for example, which is, from my understanding, like tenfold the times of pregnancy. So, and I've broken a bone, and so has my mom, and she said that hurt a tremendous deal, way more than having a child. She's had 3 of them. So, but that's on a tangent. I digress. The point is, don't think too highly about how much something is going to hurt, because chances are you may not even feel the pain as much as you feel it in your own head. And confirmation bias would be a thing. So I would say keep that in mind. Don't think too hard about the pain that you're going to feel if that's what you're afraid of. If you're afraid of some kind of injury, like some kind of failure to your eyes, like in the future, like you feel like your vision will be compromised, then I would say there's not really much that can be said about that. It's just an outlook of positivity that I would recommend in that aspect. And that's because if you have a more positive outlook, you're more likely to enjoy things in the first place, but it will not be so bad for you, and then you won't have that self-fulfilling prophecy, so to speak. So if you really just keep a positive mind, I know it's very difficult to do sometimes. I mean, it's easy for me because I've honed my mind for several years, actually since I was about like 9 years old or so. I've been honing my mind to handle stuff in the future. These things that people go through in life, I've already have made scenarios of that when I was a kid and have dealt with them over the years. So, I have a very strong way of, I guess, diluting problems. And it's very hard to articulate that and to show, I guess, to explain my rhetoric for it and have people understand where I'm coming from with this. But I would say it's all kind of like a gradual process. Like, if you can desensitize yourself from feeling like you would, like injuries and pain and all these things, and negativity in general, it only weighs you down. And as Water Exodus said, he put a very good example how he claimed that, when he has troubles with nervousness or anxiety or something in between, then he would reflect upon what it would be like in 24 hours. What it would be like, where will he be at? After the conflict or the confrontation, whatever it may be, after the fact, in the aftermath, he would see himself playing games, or he would see himself streaming, or recording a video, or hanging out with friends, etc., etc. The list goes on. But the point is, that is a very good idea, because not only are you thinking positively in there, you're thinking ahead, you're thinking for yourself in the future. So, you're already thinking that you're going to survive, and you have future plans and requirements to meet and whatever, the list goes on. But not only are you doing that, but you're also at the same time conditioning yourself to do it more often. And that's a very good idea. I think that was one of the best statements that someone could make as an advice. So that's some good wisdom that he shared, that he imparted on us all. And I'm very proud of him for saying that. That's a very good thing that you can recommend to someone. It would have been my number 2, but I do have a few other ones. I mean, one thing that I feel that could help if you're into it would be meditation, like finding your center. If you find that you're in a lot of stress, like out of control, like you have lost your sensibilities to some extent, I would say you have to really find your center, control yourself. Train yourself to find that moment of impact, or a moment of release, where you just feel like you can't take anymore. Stop, completely cease your activities, take a deep breath, and examine the condition of your body. That can go a long way. It could actually help you to stop this. That's something that I have learned to do on my own. If something is completely out of my control, I will stop what I'm doing, and I will absolutely put all my focus into it. If it's for the sake of perseverance or anything like that, if I feel like I'm in legitimate danger and anxiety, I will stop. I would actually examine the condition of my stomach, my heart rate, everything in between. And are my eyes okay? The pulse, everything is very important. You need to really just examine yourself, find your center, and calm yourself down. That helps out tremendously. That helps you to think more clearly, and it also helps to prevent a very serious problem from occurring in the first place. So that leads me to my other, bit of advice, and that's if you are involved in some kind of community, to find some supportive roles there. It could help out if you find someone, for example, that could be like a leader to you, or a role model, or some friends that are, that have your back, and find a way to have them help you with your problem. Because handling everything on your own is just a total nightmare. I mean, it can work if you have the strong will, if you're an iron-willed person, but a lot of the times people aren't like that, and that's why they have these problems in the first place. Now, I'm not saying that people aren't strong in general, but if there's a problem with anxiety and a problem with tackling problems, then that in itself, you have to see the reality of it, means that there's a problem with either self-esteem or something is wrong. And that's why we need to have other people to have our back. No one's born perfect. And these are things that we slowly correct over time. It's like, you're not born with a perfect set of tools, but you can help develop them. And you can hone them and sharpen those skills over time. And that's something that, not everyone's, you don't always start out with that. And I mean, I know I said it was going to be a serious topic, but just to put it in perspective for gaming, it's kind of like you roll, like in any MMORPG or something, you roll some good stats, not everyone's going to have that high luck stat or that high dexterity, high strength, or high mind, I mean? It's something that you work with over time as you level up, your mind, and level up your body and your state of being, and so on and so forth. So that would be my main things to talk about for help in this. And like I said, I am going to go through this myself, and I've already prepared myself. In nature, if you observe, you'll find that there's always a fight or flight response with every organism that lives on the planet. It's just a cycle of life. It is a part of human nature. It's a part of life in general. The universe also responds to this law, almost the seraphic law of the universe. And, it's just like you have a choice to either confront this problem or to run away. And if you choose to run away, that's fine. No one can really judge you for it except for yourself. And the only problem that arises is if you keep running. If you don't confront your problems, you're never going to grow any stronger. There is no easy answer. There is no bitter pill to swallow, except for the fact that you have to face reality, and that is if you don't make any advancements towards the future, if you don't make any advancements to help yourself out and to better your state of being, you're not really going to get anywhere. And, you know, as supportive as I like to be, there's still that very, very important tinge of truth that one needs to hear in order to push them to the next level. Everyone needs to hear that bit of advice, no matter how much they loathe to hear it. No matter what aspersions may be cast upon someone that says it, it needs to be said. And that to you, my friend, that is my advice. I would say first seek help from a real professional or someone that can actually offer you some either medication or desensitization or something in between. Find your center, which is I think that's something very important. You need to find your center, calm down, meditate. If you like to meditate anyway, maybe, I don't know, drink more water, drink something, or, find ways to increase your thought process a little bit more, and try not to think about it too much when you're in the heat of the moment, and just focus on the more simple facts of life. Think about positive stuff, and all of that will go away. And third, I would say find community roles. Find supportive characters that can help you out and help you through these times of great strife. And those are the main things that I would say to you. I mean, there's always some kind of anecdotal thing that one can say, like, oh, one day I had encountered this problem and I did this to help. Anecdotal stuffs aren't really going to help people. They may every now and again, I mean, especially if they're a good example, but most of the time you need to really just evaluate it yourself. If you hear examples, they can kind of be a bit of a guidepost, but at the end of the day, it can still either be very helpful or detrimental. And so it's kind of like a double-edged blade. But most of the time, I would say it doesn't help. I say find the answer on your own, and just when the heat of the moment comes, remember that it is not something that is permanent. You will live past it. You will move on. Any injury that happens or anything in between, it's fine. There always are alternatives, and there's always a way to approach a problem. There's always a way to solve it. I mean, and don't do it because someone tells you to do it. Don't do it. Don't take advice because someone tells you. Evaluate it yourself and see that you are the one who are accepting that. Find it in your heart that it is true that, this will bring you peace. Do it for yourself. Do it because you will find peace and you will find solitude. And that is all I have to say. Thank you for watching. I hope that any of my words, even just a modicum of what I said, could reach your heart and can really help you to bond with this problem and make it a part of your core, and that you could grow from it and be more resilient. And I really hope that for you. And I wish you much luck in your operations. I hope you much success in your life and everything. So I do hope to hear some positive feedback. I hope to hear that, everything was just all just a fragment of your imagination, like oh, it was just so spectacular, it actually was fun. Those are my hopeful thoughts, and I really do hope to hear from you in a more positive feedback in the future. So I wish you adieu, and I wish you luck, and thank you everyone for watching. Please go ahead and comment if you feel like you want to add some advice or your 2 cents to the problem, or wish that person luck. And yeah, I will see you in the next video. So thank you for watching. Peace out and keep us down, y'all.
With love, Fred.
Oh boy, that was some silly shit. So I'm just syncing up the video in case anyone's wondering. So I'll probably put that as extra or some shit.